It could have been worse. It was, after all, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League last season, but the Sharks take them on, put up a decent fight. We'll break this one down and get into everything that's happened with the Sharks over the last 24 hours and didn't happen right now here on Teal Town After Dark. And we say good evening to you. It is October 19th, 2023. The Sharks lose 3-1 to the Boston Bruins. And we welcome you to this edition of Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive Sharks postgame. We do this after every game, so if you want to chat with us, you can in our Superchat and hang out with fellow Sharks fans all over the world and in Sharks territory. Of course, we encourage you to follow us on all the social medias, including that one that's kind of Twitter, kind of X, whatever. You know what the deal is. Find everything at tealtownusa.com. And, of course, if you want to support the pod, you can hit us up on the Venmo at tealtownusa or check us out on the Superchat. You can make a Superchat donation in there. And with that, I say good evening to Ian Blogs Hockey, or if you're in Europe, you can say hello.
Hello.
And with that, good night, everyone.
Good night. The Sharks lost.
Can't get used to it, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't like what am I supposed to do here? The Sharks lost. Macklin Celebrini. Good night.
All we need is for him to put the Celebrini tankinis on, you know. Boy, you know, it's a nice welcome change for how this game turned out. I mean, it could have been another, 50-40 shot bloodbath, Ian. I mean, that's. I mean, let's take some baby steps into that part.
You know what? Overall, this is probably the best game they've played so far. And maybe it's just because they weren't blown up. But like you said, I think, if you look at some of the last games that they played against the Avalanche, they allowed 50 shots on goal. The last game, I think it was 40 shots on goal. I mean, not good games, right? And it's funny because on X or Twitter or whatever, it's still Twitter to me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever. But it's oh, but they're so much better defensively now. And I'm like, what, are we watching the same team? I understand. I understand the narrative of oh, well, Erik Karlsson's gone, so they're so much better defensively. And it's they allowed 90 shots in 2 games. What are you fucking on?
Yeah. And
right?
And the worst part is that you've given, let's see, you had 52 against Colorado, another 40 against Carolina. You give up 36 tonight. One stat that I put out of all the entire full periods that the Sharks have played this season, only two have they've had periods where it was less than 10. That was the second period tonight and the second period against Vegas on opening night. Obviously, we don't count the
stat.
I mean,
yeah,
it's a little concerning.
It is what it is. But no, I thought, overall though, I thought this was probably one of the better games they played. And it could be just it might be just that, they're good. This is a good team to play a team like Boston. I think that they play a little bit similar, except for obviously Boston has much better pieces at their disposal. So I wonder if it was just a situation where because I don't think Boston's the fastest team in the league. And I think maybe that's why the Sharks looked like they had a little bit better of a time. Because I think the other teams they play, Carolina has the Jets, right? The Avalanche definitely have the guys that can burn on the afterburners. I don't think Boston's the most fleet of foot team in the league. And maybe that's why this looked like a closer game. But, at the end of the day, they still lose, and that's, Macklin Celebrini, something, draft, something.
And to me tonight, I thought there were times, except for the third period, where I think they actually, came on a little bit strong here to try to catch the Bruins. But to me, they looked like they were a little sluggish, or, they're not getting their hustle in. I'm curious to hear what Quinn says after the game on that. So
Hmm.
we'll see what's going on there. And it doesn't help that some of these miscues are self-inflicted. Getting into the recap of tonight, Marchand
Hmm.
was probably the cleanest one out of the three for Boston tonight. And then 21 seconds later, they called it the Van Riemsdyk rule. I think they originally credited it to Frederick. That one's a little surprising to me.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Sharks decided not to challenge it because here's the thing, I'm gonna give you both sides of this argument.
You go.
From the Sharks' perspective, I feel like you challenged this, right? Like there was definitely clearly a stick that pushed Kakinen's foot over the line,
Right.
which I think allowed that goal. And so if I'm David Quinn, I don't like that. To me, it is a 50-50 call, because here's the argument. If you're a Boston Bruins fan, right, you're going to say, well, Kakinen never has control of that puck, and that is 100% true. Like, that puck is still loose when they drive the stick into to try and make a play, right? And I wonder if that's why David Quinn doesn't do it, because Kakinen, who I don't think was terrible tonight by any stretch of the imagination, but like, rebound control is not his forte, and I find that he does have trouble. Like, if he, when you can't control a puck that's that close to you, I think he finds himself in trouble in that more often than not. So I think, from, like I said, from the Boston perspective, he never has control of the puck, and maybe that's what they say, and they go, well, because if Kakinen has that puck and it's under his pad, there's no one can see it, and then they jam that puck in, you make that goaltender interference call every time. And I wonder if the fact that the puck was loose is why David Quinn didn't want to chance it.
Yeah.
Now, I still think you do it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, you give the Boston Bruins a power play, but if you're worried about giving up goals, I mean, this is a team that that's still in place. Kaapo Kakinen, who again was fine, but let's be honest, Kaapo Kakinen's time as a Shark, other than a small window when they first acquired him, hasn't really been fantastic. I don't know. I think it's something that I would have challenged if it was me, but I hope I illustrated why they didn't.
And I know Drew mentioned it on the radio broadcast that they thought that the stick that originally pushed Kakinen in was a Shark stick. So
it may have been.
I mean, it's possible, but you talk about Kakinen's career in San Jose. He's looked great in losses, and that's the tough part, is getting the goal support for him too. I mean, he stopped 33 of 36 tonight, a .917 save percentage. Looked decent.
He was fine. He was fine. He wasn't spectacular. Like,
right.
He didn't.
It wasn't Mackenzie Blackwood-esque.
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't want to overly beat up on Kaapo Kakinen here, because I think he was fine tonight. I don't think he was bad. I didn't like the first goal. The second one, it is what it is. And the third one, I mean,
oh God.
I mean, what can you do but just kind of shake your head at it, right? So I think he was fine tonight. I think if you want to look for reasons the Sharks lost, I think if you're making a list of the reasons the Sharks lost, I don't think Kaapo Kakinen would be very high on that list for me. As a guy who generally loves to come on here and roast Kaapo Kakinen, I'm not doing it tonight. He was fine.
Yeah. Jerry F. with the super chat as always. Thank you, good friend. Thanks again for the great coverage and giving us a place to vent in what is a challenging season for us as Sharks fans. Yes, of course. Appreciate it. Jesse.
Yeah, we try.
Yeah. Jesse, I know you had a question here. I'm trying to pull it back up here. I guess a follow up on the shots. Is there a period this year the Sharks have outshot the enemy? Jesse looked it up themselves.
I would have said no, just based on the lopsided totals of shots that the Sharks have faced. There's no way.
And Jesse said, looked it up myself. Sharks have not, in a single period this season, outshot their opponent. There have been 2 times where where they were tied. One of them
And
was,
I wouldn't even have guessed that.
and one of them was which tonight in the second period where they tied up at 7-7.
Okay, yeah, maybe I would have. Yeah, maybe tonight's game I would have guessed it, but like prior to tonight's game, I definitely wouldn't have. I would have been like, no way, the Sharks have been outshot in every period, because you look at those shock totals and it has to be, right.
Right. Especially saying how much they've been hemmed in their own zone on plays for that. So, yeah, 2 goals in 21 seconds from Marchand and Van Riemsdyk to make it 2-0 Boston. This was fairly penalty-free until maybe the third period. You know, there was only 2 penalties, like maybe in the first 3 minutes. And then that Pasternak goal, which, you know, just bad luck all around for the Sharks to make it 3-0. You had some penalties here and there in the third period, including Coyle that got tripped. And then I like the rush that they had on the Anthony Duclair goal. Duclair gets his first goal as a Shark.
This was Anthony Duclair's best game as a Shark. Again, like, it's hard because you want to, like, you don't want to jump to any conclusions, right? Like the Sharks opening schedule is a gauntlet. Like there's no other word to describe it. They are facing some of the best teams in the league right now, right? I mean, Carolina's not playing like one right now, but I still think that, you know, when it's all said and done, they're going to be comfortably a playoff team. Unless their goaltending just doesn't get healthy again, which, you know, if it's Antti Raanta going to be starting a bunch of games, maybe not. But I think when it's all said and done, like, they're probably comfortably a playoff team. All the teams that they faced here, Boston will be interesting to see what they look like this year, but I still think, like, there's enough guys on that team that have been there, done that I think they're going to be still a tough out for a lot of teams. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to fare as far as, like, their division goes, because I think the East is a nasty place.
It's gonna be
there's some really, really, really good teams, and I think there's gonna be good teams in the East that I think just don't make the playoffs just because there's just not enough space for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, and there's several people even saying Boston's not gonna make the playoffs, and come on now.
I think can I see a world where Boston takes a step back? I can. I mean, they lost some pretty big pieces, but again, I think there's going to be some really good teams in the East that are just going to miss because there's not enough space for them.
And let alone the amount of teams that bulked up in the East at the trade deadline. I mean, it's just it's just going to be helter-skelter again at the deadline come playoff time. You know, it just seems like that. It's going to be crazy. So, yeah, pretty much it there. I mean, Duclair with the nice breakout rush, nice feed. I think it was Hurdle that got the assist. Kudos to Tomas Hurdle. 4 assists in 4 games.
He's gotten the assists, hasn't found the back of the net yet himself. But, I mean, again, Hurdle... We know Hurdle's fine. Like, Hurdle's good. And I think he's, with Couture out, obviously, I think he's going to be asked to continue to do a lot. And I'm happy to see that he's still finding the score sheet, even if he's not finding the back of the net himself. But I think, you know, this will come again. This current schedule for the Sharks is really tough. And I don't think it's going to be as bad as it's been all year, because eventually, you know, you're going to play some teams that aren't nearly as potent as some of these teams that they faced so far. So I think, like, I'm not saying like the Sharks are actually good. And I don't want anyone to come away from this show saying, "Oh, Ian thinks the Sharks are actually good. What an idiot." That's not what I'm saying. But I don't think that they are going to get beaten as handily as they have in the last few games all season.
Yeah. And to start the year with Vegas, Pacific Division champion, Colorado, Central Division, Carolina, I almost want to say Southeast, but they're the Metro.
They're in the Metro.
Yeah. And then Boston, the Atlantic. It's just like, wow,
That
who
Southeast
put
division would be a gauntlet now.
Oh my God, right?
Remember how, like the Southeast was like the South least where like the Southeast division. This is why I always like laugh when everyone's like, "Oh God, the 1 versus 8." Now I'm triggering AJ right now, but it's like, and I always have to remind them it was never 1 versus 8. Like a team got home ice advantage because they won the worst division in hockey and wouldn't have made the playoffs otherwise.
Yeah. I think the first couple of years of the Hurricanes were like that, and but now it's like Carolina, amazing. Tampa has won 2 cups in this decade,
and was a third final, like
right.
Yeah.
Florida, comes out of
Stanley Cup
nowhere.
final.
Stanley Cup final. Come on, Winnipeg, what the hell? No, but just crazy, to see. So let's go through the. Let me go through some of my notes here.
Okay.
On here, and then we'll get to the chat because the chat's blowing up already.
For sure.
And then I also want to touch up on a couple of things as well. So on this date, which is crazy, there's like multiple anniversaries. Tonight was the 26th anniversary of Marlowe's first NHL goal.
Fuck, we're old.
I know. He beat Nikolai Hobby-Bulin against the Phoenix Coyotes.
Wow.
Oof. In 1991, the Sharks lose 4-1 as they take on the Boston Bruins for the first time. I think that was in the midst of a 13-game losing streak for that one. And in 1966, on this date, Bobby Orr makes his NHL debut.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah, that's just crazy on there. So let's hit up the chat, see how it's going on here. Jim in FLA, over under 15 wins this year. You're thinking that concerns me.
15 wins doesn't seem like a lot, but like I think again it's hard because like the Sharks, like right now it looks like the Sharks may never win a game again. Right? I'd probably take the under there because I think again, it's like, oh, though, is this team a 30-point team? Of course it's not, but you can lose a lot in overtime, and like every game ends in a winner and loser. So, I might take the under there, and it might again. It's probably skewed because like I just feel like right now the Sharks may never win a game again.
Oh man. And to think, it was a joke. Oh, they'll be 0 for October. And now I'm like, could their first win actually be against the Washington Capitals?
Yeah, I mean, I think now they're going on the road, if I'm correct.
Yep.
So, they were last year, and again, this doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but I think last year they were a better road team. I think most of their wins were on the road last year. So maybe getting on the road will be nice for them. I think, it gives guys a chance to bond. I think the one thing with this team that we have to remember is there's a lot of new faces on this team. And I wonder if getting on the road, forces more guys to bond and kind of get together. I think you're seeing the Sharks making a lot of moves, which we're going to get to in a second. So obviously, I think we're starting to get an idea as guys get healthy, guys get back in the lineup, guys get sent down. We're starting to get a better feel for what this team actually looks like. Mm-hmm. And I think as people get more comfortable in the roles like that, they're probably here to stay for a while at least.
Right.
I wonder if, that additional time to bond, the additional practice time or whatever, like I wonder if that, maybe a road trip's exactly what the doctor ordered right now.
Right, and the team usually loves going on the road early this year. This is a rare, rare 4-game homestand to begin the year. They've usually had 1 or 2, or just started out on the road. So we're doing that. One thing that's popping up on the post game is that the Sharks are now the only winless team in the NHL.
Again, strength of schedule. I don't know why. Like, are we? No one should be surprised by that.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Like, oh no. I mean, again, right? Like, I'm not going to come on here and be like, the Sharks lost. This is the best thing ever, right? But like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm shocked too when I look at the teams they played that they're 0-4 or whatever their actual, thing is, because I know they went to overtime or whatever. But
right.
But you know what I mean? Like, am I surprised they're the only winless team in the NHL? No, of course not. This team is cobbled together with duct tape. It's got, it hasn't really gelled yet because, again, the lines are constantly changing because they're trying to figure out something. I don't know. I mean, like, this is what I expected. I was definitely on team 0 for October.
Right.
Yeah, none of this really surprises me. I'm not upset by it. I think, again, look at it. Like, I think the Sharks played a pretty good game. But I think for the most part, most of the games I've watched this year have at least been entertaining.
They have. I mean, they got out to an early lead against Vegas. I thought they played well against Vegas until they had those 2 goals.
I think
in the
they've
last
been
2
entertaining.
minutes.
Like, the Carolina game kind of sucked with the way how that one kind of went off the rails. But up until that point, it was fine. I think, the Avalanche game, I mean, yeah, they were getting outshot. But, like, Mackenzie Blackwood gave us all something to talk about, which was, which is a nice change of pace for the Sharks, because Sharks goaltending last year never gave you anything to talk about, or gave you things to talk about for all the wrong reasons. So, yeah, I mean, like, I think that they've been, like, most of these games have been, for the most part, entertaining, which I think is important if they're going to be a team that's not going to win many games. Like, I still want to be entertained. Like, we have to do this show. We don't have to. No one puts a gun to my head or anything, but you know what I mean? Like,
Easy for you to say.
But like, I want to be entertained, and so far, for the most part, I have been.
Yeah.
So that's a positive, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they were up 1-0 on Vegas and then you had the collapse of the last 2 minutes with Vegas being Vegas. You had Blackwood 90 seconds away from an unbelievable shutout against one of the best offensive teams in the NHL. You were up 3-2 against Carolina going into the third period, when then you just, fell
I mean,
apart.
Honestly, that kind of sucked. Like, that was pretty crappy. And I question, because of, again, the shot totals and everything else, and just some of the goals. Like, I don't think the Sharks particularly deserve to be in that game at any point, to be completely honest with you. But they were, and I was entertained.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on that. Going through some of the comments here, Bordelot is going to be good. Some were saying Bordelot will be small. There's some chatter now, that maybe David Quinn is not the guy for this team anymore. And I'm like, why are we getting into this 4 games in? I mean, if you're, what are you looking for?
So here's the problem, right? And this is the problem I have, just with hockey fandom in general. One, firing the coach isn't going to change anything. I don't know what I like. If you are pro, we need to fire David Quinn right now, I need to know why. I need your justification for it, because I think that, one, there's no expectations of this team. Two, if your team play the kids have played. Like, again, okay, I know people are upset Henry Thrun went down. I'm a little disappointed Henry Thrun got sent down too. But you got guys coming back in the lineup that are healthy. Henry Thrun doesn't have to clear waivers. And do I think that losing Alex Burrows to waivers would be the end of the world? No, but NHL GMs don't think like we do. Yeah. Right? I don't know what you're hoping to accomplish by firing David Quinn and bringing in another coach. Like, do you want to be the Buffalo Sabres, who just never get out of the rebuild and bring in a new coach every year and just never make any forward progress? Like, this is still the steps back. Like, this Sharks team isn't looking for steps forward. It's still taking steps back. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation. Yeah. You don't have to like it. It's fine. But so I don't know what you expect to gain. Like, I don't want to be Buffalo. I don't want to be perpetually bad, changing coach every year. Like Jack Eichel had like 17 different coaches before getting
Right.
traded to Vegas. Do you want that?
No.
Like,
And you look at, I'll use a 49ers story where Alex Smith was this gifted number 1 overall pick quarterback, and he went through like a gajillion coordinators and a boatload of head coaches in his time in San Francisco. It's gonna throw everything off, and I know some people are like chaos, but we need to calm it down a little bit. A bit. AJ, I like his little analogy here. Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, and then I want to get to another comment too.
Okay. Firing Quinn is like firing Wolfgang Puck for making you a meal with rotten groceries. Yeah.
And Jesse L in the chat makes up it doesn't make up. He brings up a very great point, right? It's that he can't
right.
Also, if Mike Grier fires David Quinn right now, how does that establish any faith in what Mike Grier's doing? We have to look at there's gonna be pain, and it's gonna be very bad. But we have to let it play out.
We have to let the pain happen.
We have to have some patience and let the pain kind of play out, and then go look at, is David Quinn going to be the head coach of this team when this team is good again? Maybe not. Probably not. Most coaches that are brought in for the rebuild don't survive the rebuild. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
But I think that firing David Quinn now would be a mistake, because it's, one, you're not going to fix anything. And two, you can't build anything if you're constantly throwing out pieces.
Yeah.
Just the Sharks, what the Sharks need right now is stability. They need stability, and we need to kind of let this play out a little bit. We need to see if Mike Grier's plan, what's Mike Grier going to do when things go a little topsy-turvy, right?
There's a plan in place.
Hope.
It's not rebuilding. It's not, we're not using the R word. We're not retooling. I mean, let's be real here. There's finally a plan in place. There's a plan in place to get these guys to slowly but surely get these kids developed, hopefully developed the right way. None of these.
Sure. Right.
Let's have third liners, develop third liners like crazy, because we're over, teaching the defensive side of the system. It's just got to be, it's got to be interesting. It's going to take time.
Yeah, it's going to take time. This is I think when you look at the way the Sharks have come into this season, and again, right? The schedule sucks. This is the most banged up I've ever seen the Sharks start a season. I don't remember a season in recent memory where the Sharks were this broken coming into the season.
And that's the big thing. Couture's hurt, Granlund's hurt. Although I think AJ, you tweeted this out earlier on our Twitter. Granlund's going to go on the road trip. Couture is not. So you hope for something there. But you had Sturm take a shot, had friendly fire. You had, and that was from Vlasic, who's already hurt. You saw Ruda, who took a scary puck to the head.
Logan Couture hasn't taken a shift yet.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there's a lot of injuries already, and it's concerning.
This is the most banged up I think I've ever seen this team start a season.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at the reality is it comes back to one thing: stability. And firing David Quinn for, I don't know what we're firing. Again, I need to hear a legitimate reason why people think David Quinn should be fired right now, because as of right now, it's we're going to fire David Quinn because the team is bad. We know the team is bad. We knew the team was bad coming into the season. The expectations for the Sharks have never been lower, other than maybe their first year.
Right. Or their second.
Or their second, which was also
God.
rough year.
Just remember, folks, 11-71-2 was what the Sharks were their second year, and they still didn't get the first overall pick. And then the following year, and maybe I'm going to be too crazy to give some hope, they started 08-1.
Yeah.
and then became a crossbar away from going to the Western Conference final
Western
that year.
Conference final, which is wild.
Out of nowhere. But they're still working things out. And like Dirk Sink says, how do you replace a 101 point defenseman? You don't.
You can't, right? And like that's the thing, right? Like this team got worse over the summer. This team was bad last year, and it got worse.
Like I think the Duclair goal is 5-on-5, right? So the Sharks, this game. So the Duclair goal was 5-on-5. So 4 5-on-5 goals in 4 games.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I don't understand again. Like I get it, right? Like losing sucks. I understand. Like, but it's like I don't know. I just think sometimes like people get upset, right? And then like also like young players get in the lineup, right? Like some people are happy to see Henry Thrun go because like he wasn't. I don't think he played perfect, but I thought he was fine. Like he was learning. He's learning the NHL on the job, right? Like making the jump from college to pro. And I said this yesterday on TTG. For anyone who missed it, me and Kevin had an awesome conversation about the Barracuda. But I said this yesterday too. Like I think defense is one of the hardest positions to make the jump and play in the NHL. I think playing a forward's probably easy. Goaltending's probably up there too. But I think coming in and playing like meaningful minutes as an NHL defenseman, just turning pro, that's hard, man. Like that's a big ask. And do I think Henry Thrun was like perfect and there was no flaws in his game? Of course not.
No.
But again, like if you want to play the kids, guess what? The kids are going to make mistakes. Sometimes they're not going to play something the way that a Kyle Burrows or name your 7th defenseman that the Sharks deploy on a nightly basis. Maybe they don't make that same mistake, but that's how you learn, right? And it frustrates me too. It's like, play the kids. Oh, but if the kids don't play perfect hockey, send their ass back to the Barracuda and I never want to see them again. And everything's awful.
I think everybody wants that quick turnaround, which unfortunately the Sharks have themselves to blame for having it happen in 94 and in 04 and in 2016. Where there was like a kind of a development change and it always came back to one of their best years.
Yeah.
And this isn't happening. This is a full teardown. This isn't a retool like we've seen in the past. So it's tough to take.
Yeah, 100%.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm asking in the chat, how many games per season was he playing before the NHL schedule? I think college players play like 50 games a year. But here's the difference, right? It's not just the number of games you play, it's the speed of the game. That's the big difference. Like there's a jump, like when you go from college to the AHL, there's a noticeable speed difference. And when you skip the AHL and go right to the NHL, that's a jump. Right.
So we'll transition over to this right now. So Henry Thrun goes.
No. I'm fighting someone in chat right now. Okay, so Erik Karlsson was a 100-point demon with a -26. Man, plus minus is the worst fucking stat in this league. Like you guys trot out this -26, like it's the biggest thing. Most of those were empty net goals for one. So there's no goalie in net, but those still count as a minus. And two, again, like if you're gonna tell me this team is better defensively, explain these shot totals to me. You can't, because there's no fucking logical thing that you could possibly say that's going to make me think that this is a better defensive team because it has stay-at-home, sturdy, useless 7th defenseman. Give me a fucking break. Get out here with that garbage. Out. Because you know what Erik Karlsson does? Erik Karlsson moves the puck the other way so that you're not getting 50 shots a night on your goal because you don't have any defensemen that can get the puck out of your zone, that can carry the puck or make a good first pass, apparently. And you end up just blocking shots all night. I mean, yeah, look if you love block shots, this is the Sharks decor for you. And they're going to do it all the fucking time. Because again, they can't move the puck the other way. And this is why it always drives me crazy. And I'll get off this in a second. But this is, and then Sharky, but I don't mean to pick on you specifically. This sentiment is just kind of driving me a little fucking crazy, right? The modern NHL defenseman, like the stay-at-home defenseman, isn't a thing anymore. Do you know why? Because to be an NHL defenseman now, you need to be able to put the puck and move it the other way. You need to at the very least, be a two-way defenseman to be a successful defenseman in this league today. The game has fucking changed. Period.
You guys made him angry. Yes. Game 4, he's already mad. I love it.
I'm not even mad at the game. That's the worst part.
No.
Okay,
no.
let's get down to the stuff today.
Yeah. So let's begin with what happened. Well, I guess Thrun was yesterday.
What didn't happen or what happened?
Well, Thrun went down, and we kind of already touched up on that. So that's to me, for the CUDA, Thrun down there, and we'll spoiler alert, Shimmick, gets down there. Decor for the CUDA could be something, in the AHL. So I'm hoping for that. But again, development for Thrun would be huge. And more playing
Thrun's
time.
going to go down to the AHL, and he's going to get played in every situation possible. He's going to get a ton of minutes in the AHL. Like, I'm not upset that, like, again, Thrun, like, I could see an argument for keeping him in the NHL. I would have liked to have seen him stay in the NHL and kind of just work through it. And then if you think, like, if his confidence is getting completely smashed, but when I'm looking at a lot of these players that are getting sent down to the Barracuda, this Barracuda team might surprise some people. Like, I don't know what to make of them yet. And we did, again, if you want some more hardcore Barracuda talk, we did a show last night, me and Kevin Lacey, where we talked about pretty much everybody on the Barracuda at one point. So go
I think you went through the whole roster.
Yeah, we really did. We kind of went through the whole roster. And I don't know what to make of this team yet, but at first I was kind of like, whatever, this team's going to be bad. But I'm not so sure about that anymore. Like, when you look at some of the players that they're getting, like, yeah, okay, like, I don't think Radim Shimmick has had the best of luck in the NHL. I think injuries have really hurt him and really diminished his value in the organization. But if Shimmick can stay healthy on an AHL squad, like, he's a guy who could do really well down there. Oscar Lindblom is a guy down there who should do really good things down there, right? Again, now the Barracuda are pretty banged up as well. They're missing Tristan Robbins right now, and I think that has kind of hurt their offensive punch. But if you add like a Radim Shimmick, and and I think Henry Thrun going down there and getting opportunity to just play in every opportunity and be a big part of that team, like these are good things. And as a guy who watches a lot of Barracuda games, selfishly, I need one of these teams to be fun. And if it's the Barracuda,
we'll take
so
it.
Be it. I mean,
we'll take
ideally, the Barracuda should be more fun, because as the rebuild progresses, like, the AHL team should at least be competitive at some point.
Right.
And I think that if the Barracuda aren't good this year, I think that's going to scare a lot of people. But I want to remind people that, like, the Barracuda this year are still missing some really big pieces of this rebuild so far, right? Like, Will Smith still playing college. Philip Beasted's over in Europe. Havlid can't play for the Barracuda until he's like 24 because of the SHL NHL transfer agreement. And people say, like, the junior agreement's bad. So, like, there's definitely pieces that are not playing yet, that would make this team a lot punchier. So I don't want people to panic if the Barracuda aren't amazing this year, because I think that they're still missing, like, the pieces that are going to be the guys that we're talking about coming out of the rebuild, about being the next wave, the next guys, the next Coutures, Hurdles, Jumbos, whatever. Like, those guys aren't there yet, and that's fine.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to just, soak it all in there. I was like, wow. Oh, man. Just trying to go through the chat as you were talking, that Ricky mentioning that SHL agreement is new, Ian, and everyone hates it. Big Bird. So Jelly used to watch Worcester every game.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. That would have been tough too.
All right, kind of going through some of them. You kind of touched up on Ryan's comments, like who can be the number one center on this team or top two defensemen on there. So we'll move on there. Ricky saying, "Are we ever going to see Emberson?" Haven't heard anything about
See,
that yet.
Emerson's an interesting guy because I think like you claimed him, and I think there's a concern where, again, he's a guy where I think he would, he's done really well in the AHL. I think he was defenseman of the year last year,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm remembering correctly. Like, so he's a guy who I think would also help the Barracuda a ton. But I want, he's a guy that's kind of lost their. I think they don't want to send him down, but they don't know where he fits on the Sharks either.
Right.
So I think it's one of those. He's in that weird limbo spot where it's like, well, if we put him on waivers, someone will probably claim him,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I want to put him in the lineup yet. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out when a guy like, because I think Hotiuk will be a guy who's on a conditioning assignment. I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine him being in the NHL once that condition assignment's over. I think he'll eventually be sent down too. So I'm curious to see where Emberson fits. I think it's, like I said, I think it's a situation where you're concerned that he's going to be, he's going to get claimed on waivers, but you haven't found a pair that you like him on in practice. I don't know.
Yeah, and again, more help for the Kude, the better, in how I see it. Um, so we talk about Shimmick going down, but let's talk about the guy who didn't get waived today.
Mm-hmm.
That was a crazy little 30 minutes of chaos that went through the Twitter sphere.
That was fun because, like, honestly, like, I very rarely go on social media when, like, it's not a game's happening. And I find, like, I'm so much happier for it. But this was a situation where it's like, oh, I just happened to pick up my phone and I see that, like, Kevin Levac apparently is being put on waivers, which I thought was weird because yesterday the talk was he was going to play tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for Saravalli here because I think Saravalli is generally I mean, this guy has definitely broken news before.
Right.
Like, I think he's one of the guys who I think is pretty trustworthy. Maybe someone else give me examples where he hasn't exactly gotten it right. But I think sometimes, like, when you're in a situation like this, you're subject to your sources, right? And sometimes your sources burn you. And I think, unfortunately for him, I think a source burned him, unfortunately. And I think it's, we'll have our fun with it for the next couple of things. But I still think Saravalli's a good follow.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Didn't he, spoiler alert the entire Seattle Kraken expansion list?
He might have.
Or was it somebody else?
I just wonder if, like, and also, but I think, wasn't it Saravalli? Like, I wonder if the Sharks kind of just screwed with him a little bit because, like, he was also the one that wasn't he the one that also broke the Barracuda being sent out to fight?
I want to say yes. I can't confirm that though. That does sound like that was Saravalli. Yeah, and even Logan Teal was saying, Saravalli wasn't burned if my wild theory was true. Yeah, I actually have that saved for what Kevin's talking about. I have a wild theory. Do you think the Sharks planted the LeBanc waiver rumor to distract everyone from Shimmick going on waivers, even though why would anyone claim Shimmick?
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. Look at Radim Shimmick has had a really shit go of it with injuries. I don't mind Radim Shimmick. I think he's fine. I just think the Sharks have a lot of that guy right now.
Right. And not the least of which he's had some concussion issues over the last year or so. He had that knee injury a couple of years ago.
He's had a shit
tough
go
luck.
of it, man.
Yeah. Nothing against this play because I think he's been pretty good when he's been on it, but it's been a while since he's been on it and be healthy for that. AJ was saying the Sharks are averaging 1.5 goals per game and 1 goal per game at 5-on-5. That's not a win recipe. To which Jerry F beat me to it and said, AJ, That is a whole new way to look at 2 or fewer.
Oh God, no! Stop!
Don't.
Fuck off. No,
Hey, come on now.
no.
We could talk about that.
I'm having none. I'm having none of it.
I love me some Brody, but he's very busy talking about Las Vegas, and I feel for the guy. He's the pre and post game host. And I'm stealing your thunder, AJ, from our Twitter DMs. He's the pre and post game host of the worst team in the NHL and the worst team in baseball. I mean, that poor guy. Love you, Brody. I feel for you.
We all make choices, not all of them good.
I
could have picked. I could have picked any other new team. Any other new team, but no, I picked the first one that happened.
And I'm grateful for that.
Other than the Senators, they've all won cups.
Yeah. Oh man.
So it's true. I could have picked Ottawa, and that would be worse.
Yeah. But they made a cup final.
But they didn't win. So did the Sharks. They didn't win.
Well, yeah, but they got close too.
Okay.
I want to say. Wait, now you got me thinking here. Are Ottawa and San Jose out of the '90s expansion? I'm not counting Nashville and beyond. Are those?
Yeah,
out of those
teams that have won cups. The Ducks have a cup.
The Ducks have a cup.
No, the Florida Panthers don't have a cup either.
But they've been to multiple cups. Only Ottawa and San Jose have only been to one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ottawa, Florida, but yeah, I mean, not great.
Yeah. So Ricky wants to ask us, can you guys talk about Mike Hoffman? I really want to know if I'm alone in thinking this guy is totally washed.
I think Hoffman is a accessory piece. He's not the guy. So I think when you look at, I think partially is washed. But I think he's also a guy who he needs the help. Like, I think he's a guy that will benefit greatly from a guy like Logan Couture being back in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think when you look at kind of the lines he's skating with right now, like, I don't know what he's supposed to do with Luke Cunnin as his center.
And to have basically a line blender going on because of everything going on with Couture being out and not enough offense going. It's going to be a mix. That's
like he needs to be like he's not the guy who's going to drive the line. I think he's a good accessory if you have like a decent players, but I don't think that he's been very good. But I didn't have a lot of high expectations for him coming in. Like I had a lot higher expectations for Anthony Duclair, who I thought had a really good game tonight, but up until now, and again, these games are so lopsided that, right.
Right. Hot Wheels. Oh boy. Hoffman hasn't done anything notable since bullying EK65. Oh God.
Well, allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So with that,
let's not get sued for that. But back to Kevin Labanc for a second though. Yes. I was kind of surprised that I think if the Sharks, I don't think, obviously, like they say, there was never any plans to put Kevin Labanc on waivers, and I think, like, again, that would be really bad, because I think if you're a team, especially a team that's in the cellar and has a little bit of cap space, or even a team like who has cap space but has bigger aspirations, like maybe the Buffalo Sabres, right? I think, like, if a guy like Kevin Labanc goes on onto waivers, like, I roll the dice, man. I roll the dice that a change of scenery rejuvenates his game, and then if it does turn around, you have another piece you can flip at the deadline. So if you're a team like Anaheim, for example, right, cap space, not expected to do much, Kevin Labanc would be a nice little piece that you could add there that could maybe reclaim his value, and then maybe you flip him for something at the deadline. And if you can't move him at the deadline, you walk him to free agency. Who cares?
Yeah, you hope you can get something for him, but
well, I think the Sharks, like the Sharks haven't I mean, here's the thing. What I would have moved on from LeBanc the second there was a hint that he was moving towards David Quinn's doghouse.
Yeah.
Like I would have moved him then and there before, because you want to make for a guy like Kevin LeBanc, right? Who's again 3 coaches now. So I don't want to say like I like Kevin LeBanc, but when you end up in the same place with 3 different coaches, there's, you probably have to look yourself in the mirror a little bit there. But I think the Sharks allowing that to play out and putting him and having him be a guy like that is just such a depressed asset at this point for them. Now tonight, to his credit, I think Sheng pointed this out that, when the Sharks were looking for the goal and they had the extra attacker on, Kevin LeBanc was the extra attacker. That's a good sign for Kevin LeBanc trying to stay in the lineup. But to me, I think this is an asset that the Sharks probably should have moved on from sooner. And I think all they can do now is hope that he can stay out of David Quinn's doghouse this season. And, and maybe you can flip him at the deadline for something, although that cap hit, that's going to be a tough sell. But, we'll see what happens.
And I highly doubt that they want to use their last retention spot on that, even though it expires after this year.
Well, it expires after the year. Who gives a shit?
Right.
It expires July 1st. Who cares?
So.
Unless you think you're going to make a deal at the draft. But, I mean, tell me your last big blockbuster trade at the draft. Like, that's the whole reason they're talking about like decentralizing it, because the big trades don't really happen anymore. And then, and GMs are whiny bitches and they're like, July 1st is in a couple of days and I got to be home because, I've never talked to any of these players before noon on July 1st. And after, we submit like, this isn't my joke, this is 132 Thoughts, but like,
yes, no, I totally
as you submit like, this trade with like, multiple different years of payment and different bonus structures and everything else, right? No, we did that in 2 seconds. It was fine. These guys never talked to anyone before noon on July 1st.
It's the prime example would be Belfour. He was a Shark. Oh, I want to stay a Shark, and then like 1 minute into free agency, he was a Dallas Star. So
right.
yeah.
No, there's no way that deal was talked about, not
at all.
I don't know. Like, what do you think about decentralizing the draft? I don't really care one way or another. Like, I think as long as it goes, like, I think if you're looking to like, if you want to kill some time, like maybe the entire city of San Jose doesn't have to go to the podium when the Sharks make a pick.
But
like maybe, and if maybe we don't have to like shout out
all our fans that are at our draft party at
Joe's Diner watching our draft party, and everyone doesn't have to jerk off the Stanley Cup champion. I think there's ways you could speed that along. But at the end of the day, like it's a made for TV event, right? You have guys like the interviews are still going to happen. So I don't know, man. I don't know the solution.
To me, I don't see anything wrong with it. Okay, they're on the floor. Cool. Maybe just, there might be some moves on the floor. So big. I think the biggest move that we've seen in the last decade has been Corey Schneider to New Jersey for the number 9 pick.
How long ago was that?
10 years ago, or the Jordan Stahl trade from Carolina.
Like, but I mean, big trades, like it hasn't been I think it's fine for draft geeks like me, but like it's not. But I don't think it's been like must. Like there was a time where a lot of stuff like trades would generally go down, but again, like until this cap starts doing something, that I think the cap going up, like the cap actually moving up, will actually help some of these things happen again. I don't think the flat caps helped anything. I don't know. I like the way they do the draft. I think it works fine. I don't think they need to change it. Someone asked in the chat what I think about the draft. The draft lottery is fine. I think that you don't want to. You want to try and discourage tanking a little bit. I mean, teams are going to do it whether you like it or not. But I don't know. I'm fine with teams not being historically terrible and being guaranteed the best odds. I like the lottery aspect of it. I think I think it's fine. I think if you think it's rigged, then that's on you. I mean, it's not. They bring in, like, if you ever actually look into it, like there's a completely separate firm that comes in and does the lottery balls. Like, it's not like Gary Bettman's are going, I want this numbers. Like, I don't know. I mean, if you think it's rigged, all the power to you. But
my whole thing is make it a festival, make it like you have a fanfare like you do at the All-Star game. That would be fun to have. Showcase these guys a whole lot more, because
I just think the draft's for geeks, man. And I say that lovingly, like,
no, of course.
I am a guy who does a 4.5 hour live stream the last 2 drafts. So I mean, I am clearly the target audience, but the draft's for geeks.
But I mean, my whole thing is make it a party and everything about it, especially day 2. I mean, but
day 2 is great because it just fucking flies. Don't change day 2. Day 2 is amazing.
No, I'm just saying you add some sort of festival to it or something to get it going. But my whole thing, if you decentralize the draft, you're gonna have the entire city of San Jose. I'm fine with that, because you know what? Everybody that talks about, oh, you should do it like the NFL and the NBA. What's the picture that the draft is taking with?
Yeah, like,
you're taking with Gary Bettman.
It's the one thing I agree. Like, it's the one thing that the NHL does that's kind of unique, and I don't think that they should trade it. I'm the wrong person to ask, because I don't watch other sports. I am strictly a hockey guy who watches a little lacrosse when I could find the time.
Right.
So, like, to me, like, I can't speak to the NBA draft or the NFL draft or how it works or how good of television it is. But from people that do, it seems like they appreciate that the NHL is different than those sports.
Right. So, all right. On that note, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we went super long.
Oh, yeah. And guess what? We're going to be back together on Saturday, so it's going to be fun.
That's true. We are going to be back together when I do triple duty.
Triple duty? Oh, boy.
Oh, Sharks and Barracuda are playing at the same time, I think.
Oh, wonderful. This will be great. So,
I think they are. I'd have to check. Maybe they're not. Maybe I think AHL TV tells me games in my time, and I'd have to look.
Pull it up. That'd be interesting, because I know they're in Henderson this weekend.
Let me take a look.
So while you do that,
I think it's because, like, our rundown for things has it in Pacific time, and I think AHL TV tells me in my time. So
you look it up, and I will say, in case you missed anything or don't want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple, Google, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeart, Odyssey. And, of course, if you're on the YouTube right now, I see 19 likes. Let's get that over 20 people.
There we go.
Hit that subscribe button and hit
they
that
play at the same
bell.
time, because they play at 10 my time, so that's 7 Pacific.
Okay. Oh, so you're going to be on the air, and then the Barracuda are going to, like, score 4 goals, and then I'll have to break out my Nullenberger impression. So, so with that, Ian, I'm.
Oh no, Saturday. Yeah, Saturday is 4 p.m. Yeah, we're good. So Saturday is 4. So Saturday, I will watch the Barracuda first, and then I was looking at Friday's game, which I'm definitely not gonna be able to watch because I'll be sleeping.
Sleeping. Ian,
I have to work at 7 a.m. Eastern.
Ian,
Yeah,
come on.
I'm not staying up until 1 o'clock in the morning to watch a hockey game.
We cannot sleep until we have a bye week. Come on.
Oh, fuck. You don't want me to see me with no sleep. It's bad. It's bad.
I think he's run out of things to say, so I'm going to say for Ian Reed, I am Eric Cura. You can catch us at our Twitter and Instagram handles down below. We'll be back with you following Sharks and Predators. That is a 5 p.m. start time. Will the Sharks like it and love it and want some more of it? We'll see. But until then, the Sharks will hit the road. You want to take any guesses as how many points they'll get? 3, he says. All right.
0.
Oh. Well.
0.
With that, thanks for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. take a look at TTG from last night. Also, I had a quick interview with Randy Hahn, touching up on a number of subjects. So hit us up on all of our YouTube coverage and on our podcast audio work. So until then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you Saturday following Sharks and Predators. Good night, everyone.